Welcome to Dear Grandchildren, A Tracker's Tale. I'm Michael Douglas, your guide on this journey into the heart of nature and the wisdom that it holds. Here, we blend the ancient skills of survival, tracking, and foraging with modern insights to help you reconnect to the wild within. In each episode, we'll explore timeless practices, share life-changing stories, and discover how the natural world can bring you mindfulness, resilience, and purpose. But this podcast is more than just a show. It's a community. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcast, where you'll find exclusive content, question and answer sessions, bonus tales. For those seeking a deeper connection, explore our workshops and experiences, or even bring me to your community for an unforgettable adventure. Now, let's step off the trail and into a possible nature experience that could change how you see the world. Let's begin. In the last episode, we got our maps and we're ready to go. And just like if we were in an airplane or a 1950s driver of a vehicle, we'd have our checklist, right? We'd check the tire pressure and we'd check the oil and that the wiper fluid was full. And at least we do it to some extent with safety. We click our seatbelts and we make sure the gas is adequate enough to get us there and back. And then if the windshield doesn't get clean, we change our wipers or we replace it's more reactionary today, but it used to be proactive, and there was a lot of sense to that. Being proactive before you get on a plane where you see the pilot going through the checklist and, testing the flaps and the radio and all of the things. This is your pre-flight checklist. As the owner and operator of your own vehicle, you should be familiar with some of the procedures to develop fully in a deeply rooted and effective manner. Now, some of these it's your choice really, right? Some of these I neglect because I get too excited. Others I neglect because I don't know why. I have to track them. But there's always work to do on this. And as long as you're working on this expression of your core operating system into the world, the rest of it will be navigable. You'll be able to get to where you want to go with your map and do some of the work that you're looking to accomplish. So, attitude, shelter, water, fire, food. Let's break shelter, water, fire, food down. Attitude is yours, and you already know it's based on choice and awareness. Well, this is an awareness part. This is the step-by-step checklist to see if you're ready to go. Did you get enough sleep? Shelter allows us security, comfort, and a sense of belonging, which is all about being cradled or held in our mother's arm or in the womb. It's funny, the way I learned it, the term, the Earth's womb for the debris hut, it makes sense. You're home. And then you get birthed into the new day every day. And I put that aside because there were some folks who were holding on to some anger around, I don't know, some political issue. And I decided, well, if that's going to offend people, I won't express it. Do you know the very next year, the incidence of claustrophobia spiked? But you know what cures claustrophobia? Hypothermia. Every time. I can't get in that shelter. Well, build a workshop on the end. Or see how long you can last up to your waist and then go into your tent. Every time they were curled up in the bottom of their debris hut. And those with tents would say, yeah, it was warmer in there than my sleeping bag in my tent. Anyway. Sleep. Hydration. And the quality and quantity of calories, which is fire and food, right? Calories are a measurement of heat. And we burn calories or store them based on the quality of the things we put into our body and how active our lives are. So it's healthier to live a calorie-tight budget than it is a calorie surplus budget. Just as our fear of calorie neglect or lack compels us to overeat out of stress, binge eat whatever, or eat simple carbs because they're quick, We went from one extreme to the other. We ran from one fear into a sticky trap of being the most malnourished and overweight species on the planet. But I digress. By the way, wild foods, I'm just saying. After you have those physical pieces in place, sleep, water, and calories, and you got it measured out to a pretty good system and flow. And what I mean by that is, you know that you have to drink 3 to 5 things of water and make sure that they're in front of you, and have 2 or 3 bottles of water strategically placed to remind you, and you have a system for keeping them clean, and there's something in your face all the time to gently remind you, oh yeah, drink water. That you make room and respect yourself so others can respect you. For the sleep that you going to bed. It's only 7:30, or maybe I'll binge some Netflix with you for 6 more hours. No, you don't do that. You say, I'm going to bed. I'm in need of sleep, but thank you. And then you go to sleep. You're going to be a better person for it, for yourself, and again, for everybody else. So shelter, water, calories, we all have our sacred cows when it comes to calories. I'm a vegetarian. And I know I eat too much, and I eat too much crap because it's so easy. So I have to shape my environment in order to have success. I have to make meals ahead of time. I have to stage them in a rotation from the freezer to the refrigerator. The act of cooking and storing and the expense of it helps me to make a deeper commitment to that routine for health, right? It's almost like it becomes ceremony for me. But you're going to have to craft your own ceremonies, your own rites of passage, your own anchors and waypoints to make these things stick for you. So after those are done, the sacred silence or the stillness without any thought to just absorb information about yourself and your landscape. I've heard so many expressions of this quote that humanity suffers because we have a problem with being able to sit alone in a room just by ourselves with no distraction. There's a lot to that. If you're content with who you are, you don't need to be distracted. You can be happy alone in a room. In our hunter-gatherer nomadic roots, long periods of silence were a sign of health and strength and wellness and connection. It was the excessive talking that was dis-ease. In our modern context, it's flipped. You go half an hour without saying anything, people start to get concerned. Are you okay? Did I do something to make you mad? Reclaim your health. Reclaim your silence and really enjoy it, savor it. So if somebody asks you, you can come from a place of authenticity in your heart and a smile on your face that is real and not contrived. You can actually say before thinking what you're going to say, how you feel, and it won't offend. It may even inspire. So that sacred silence accesses the wellspring of all of the information at once. You're actively opening up the reticular activating system in the center of your brain, the filter that filters out 80% of the distractions for that 20% that you normally focus on. And we're going to reverse that. Talk about the 80-20 rule in a bit. Once you're in that sacred silence, your brain's going to want to come online because we've overdeveloped it, which is okay. We just got to reclaim our sovereignty and put it back in its place as a valuable tool. And the first part of that is telling it to be quiet. How do you know you're quiet? How do you know your brain has turned off? Well, because I think it. Well, that means your brain wasn't turned off, was it? Don't think of a pink elephant in a white room or anything else to replace it. I know that's not enough. I'm just demonstrating how difficult it can be. But it's not difficult. It's quite the opposite of difficult. I don't like the term surrender for some people because it gives them negative connotation of giving everything up. I would say it's that piece where you're in between thought and sleep and more towards sleep. You just kind of let things go. You can bring them back anytime you want. but let thoughts go away. Passively acknowledge that they're there and give them permission to move on. Someone said to me, I just pretend they're like balloons and I just let the strings go and they go into the sky. Sometimes for me, when a thought comes, I'm in the back of that auditorium watching it like it's a clown juggling on stage, and I just let it continue onto the other side. Breathe it out and relax. Now, some people use beads or candles or singing bowls or fox walking in wide angle vision. That's a good one. But my mandala is relaxing my muscles, starting from the top of my head down to my feet. And every time I breathe, I envision clean, crisp, like this harmonic energy of joy and timelessness coming in. And I breathe out this tar-like dis-ease of expectation and time frames and tension. And then the tension gets released through my musculature. So starting with my head and neck, I'll breathe in and then let it go into the earth. And then I'll breathe in again, and it'll be my core, my chest, my upper back. I'll do my neck 2 or 3 times sometimes on a stressful day, lower back too. And it just goes through like I'm a tree and I have these roots going in the ground and they go in. And every time that space, as I exhale, relaxes into like this jello form. I'm sitting upright now, so there are some muscles I need to maintain in order to continue. And you can do this standing, you can do this walking. Wide angle vision is almost, it's going to happen. You don't have to try, because as you relax, you normally would go into wide angle vision. And you keep going until you start to awaken all of your senses, the subtle wind across the back of your hand and the weight of your clothing. I start with touch because it's the largest organ of my body. Can you feel how your body's pressed against whatever you're making contact with right now? And the texture of the clothing that's on you, where it's tight, where it hangs. And then continue that, like you're awakening every single nerve ending in your being. It's the largest part of your antenna array. And then I ask people to go into stretching out their sound awareness, not to listen to distant traffic or people or birds, but the silences beyond them. Find their location, their distance, their shape, and whether or not they're moving. So coupling the largest sensory organ, your skin and its awakening, with an awareness 3 miles out in all directions of the bubbles, shapes, sizes, and flow of the silences. Ready? Breathing in. And then relax. I hope you heard the gurgle of my belly. When you're listening for the silences, everything is heard. When you're listening for the subtlety of bird language, you miss so much, and those things that overpower it annoy you. We're not going for annoying. We're going for surrendering to accepting all of what's happening in the nanosecond of the now without judgment, because judgment is a cacophony of distraction. Once you have that sacred silence and your senses start to open up, we're going to bring on the tool of focus through tracking. Now, tracking is more than following footsteps. Tracking is, sure, who made this track? Where are they going? What were they doing? All of those things designed to create focus, but it's like learning the letters of the alphabet and then how they shape into words, and then words into sentences, and then sentences into paragraphs. You get deeper and deeper meaning through tracking. Tracking at first, oh, that's a skunk, not a house cat, because skunks have 5 toes. And even though some house cats have 5 toes, and the normal is 4, but they eat weird things, so they express weirdly. House cats are visual hunters, and skunks are like digging in the ground, and they almost walk like a drunken cat, but their compression shapes are rectangular. Okay, cool. You just put some words together. Now let's put some paragraphs together. That's obviously a skunk, but it's not the 2-year-old skunk that normally comes this way. This is a passerby. It looks like an older male, much more cautious than the 2-year-old, and it's hugging the sides of the barn. I wonder if it's got experience being hunted by owls. great horned owls hunt skunks because they don't have a sense of smell. But so too do fishers. They just don't care. It's meat and they're going to eat it. So this skunk's got some battle sense to it. And it's heading right over to the lawn and it's digging efficiently, where that 2-year-old kind of bumbles around like it had too much scotch. There's a difference in depth of understanding, to the point where you cross a threshold where you're not looking at tracks anymore. You're looking at the context of the environment, the season, the time of day, the weather conditions, and you know the cast of characters and where they're most likely to be. And tracks are more of a validation of where your body's already heading. Now that you've had focus enough that you can back away and see not only systems with broad strokes, but you bring depth to those strokes. You know why those systems are in play and how they're going to express in a half an hour or at sunset or just as the sun is coming up or 5 days from now or during the equinox or when the raspberries are in bloom. It just gives you more depth of those systems, and you'll know why the bear is being pulled up the side of that mountain, or that the third raccoon roadkill season is almost upon us. And that this time they're going to be really fat instead of those adolescents that got kicked out. Okay. When you have tracking online, and it's, you know what? There is no timeline for any of this. I suppose I misspoke. When you have tracking as part of your repertoire, it becomes a grounding, humbling reality check. And it's one of the most essential safety mechanisms for your tool set, so you don't go off your own rails into an abyss. The DSM, we're on volume 4 of the Diagnostic Psychological Manual, mostly used for billing purposes. Anyway, wide-angle vision. So your tracking is focusing your eyes, you're focusing your senses on a trail, on a subject, on a context of an environment. But then we're going to back out again and go macro again, right? So we started off with big picture. We went into a focused state, and then we come back on the other side of that into big picture, and it's a completely different world. You're accessing your right hemisphere and your left hemisphere simultaneously with new tools, with new insights, and then slow down below the baseline of the environment you're in. So we went from sleep, water, and calories on a physical level into entering the sacred silence as a transitory state, as a method of accessing that sensory motor rhythm, which is 13 to 15 hertz, or on the brainwave activity thing, right? So wide angle vision, total sensory awareness, all of those things are getting us up and online, but it's the tracking that provides the necessary focus to remain grounded in what's real on the physical level, and you need that. I say that with all sincerity. There's too many people out there who get deep into the skills, including method actors and entertainers, who lose their stuff because they forget who they really were. They shape-shifted into so many characters and so many personas and never came fully back home. You choose what that looks like for you. Don't get me wrong. Home is the best person you can be. Return to that every time at the end of the day. Create a ceremony, if you will. I know Jim Carrey had a little temple in his backyard that he went to when he was feeling ungrounded. Even he almost lost it. It's a real journey. And if you're going to remain open with all of your skill sets, it's a real risk if you don't come back to what you know is real. Tracking brings you back. Track that. I track birds, trees, of course, all kinds of substrate, body language cues. I'm quite fascinated now with tracking the writers of weaponized storytelling, and it's like playing chess, right? What is the antithesis of generating all of this division, angst, and hatred, all of this discord and disconnect? Because we need that, right? Everything has to be in balance, and there seems to be an imbalance right now. Wide-angle vision allows you to problem solve faster than thought. You have an intuition. And slowing down below the baseline makes it so you can still move around and get things done, But the baseline is always feeding you information louder than your logical mind. Your logical mind can create a context of reality that is outdated, misinformed, incomplete, has an expectation that made sense in the moment it was made, but as you hold on to it for too long, too tightly, too intensely, that goal that you have set has expired. It's actually going to do more damage than good. So we want to circle into that presence of mind after tracking the energy around us with wide angle vision to help access all of our brain and slowing down below the baseline so we can continue to get live feed information as it's unfolding. And then go to nothing, no thoughts. What normally happens is an inspiration happens, a realization happens. Your body starts moving to do something before you realize what you're doing. And then when your brain catches up, you go, oh, this makes total sense. I know what I'm doing. Which brings us to the 80-20. Nature has tendencies. 80% of the time, carnivores eat meat. But anyone who's tracked red fox has seen raspberry and blackberry and blueberry seeds in their scat, as well as bobcat. And deer eat baby birds and chipmunks and any meat that happens to get close to them. They will snarl it right up. Protein. Woo! Everybody loves protein. Chipmunks eat protein. Mice eat each other's brains. There is no true carnivore and there's no true herbivore. 80% of the time, yes, or give or take. And then 20% is the anomalous, those things that deviate from the norm, which ensure a variation that might just get the species to survive some catastrophe that wipes them out because of that 80% tendency. You know, we almost lost the world's bananas because they were a monoculture of the same species and there was a blight that was taking over. That's bananas. Well, nature has variation. There's enough breathability to keep you guessing. Like I said, nobody really knows what's going on here. I'd run if somebody said exactly what was going on here in the opposite direction. Because I value not knowing and wanting to. I value the quest. I hope they never find the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot. I want that mystery to stay alive in everybody, including me. I love the mystery of it. Tracking brings you that mystery. You can never track it all. So how do we use this? How do we use this systems approach? I got enough sleep. I'm well hydrated, peeing too much actually. Calories, well, probably taking in a little too many crap calories, but it is winter and, the bears did it. Sacred silence. When I start this podcast, I work about an hour and a half before I go on to gather materials that I've had in filing cabinets in my journals, materials that I've researched, but maybe 3 years ago for a presentation, current research, and I'll lay them out. I've got a little footstool and a desk and an old door I turned into a desk. And I've got papers everywhere so I can look at a glance. But then I find once I lay them all out, it's like a cheat sheet. I used to make cheat sheets in school, and then I'd never use them because the act of making the cheat sheet meant that I knew the answer when I looked at the test. So it's almost like, that's what ceremony is, isn't it? You create a meaningful ceremony and preparation for the execution of something important. And that something important could be to make your kids laugh so hard they fall down, or to share in a sacred and meaningful exchange with a loved one every day, making a space for remembering who you are and the best parts of you and bringing that back online before opening the door to your home, even after a day of anger and frustration and feeling like you're falling short on things. It's jujitsu at its highest form. There was someone who said jujitsu, a master, when you wrestle a jujitsu master, it's like wrestling an empty shirt. And for some reason, it just keeps wrapping around you and you get less and less mobile. I like that. The redirecting of force effortlessly so that it doesn't create dis-ease. You use it instead as compost for your beautiful garden. Yeah. Well, that's the beginning of it. The tools with the roadmap. You have your checklist. Did you get enough sleep? You know, a sleep cycle, circadian rhythm for an adult is average 90 minutes. So it's healthier to be in a state of sleep for 6 hours or 7.5 hours, right? Or 9 hours. But it's not that we need 8 hours of sleep. We need 8 hours, 15 minutes to fall asleep, 15 minutes to wake up. And that's that circadian sleep cycle routine, 90-minute chunks until we have the 7.5 hours of solid sleep. But in a pinch, 3 hours is better than 4, right? Better 4.5 than 4. But it's about managing it so that you can perform. Once you perform, I want to hear about what you're going to do about it. So this will be the next step. You've got your tools, you've got your map, you've got your checklist, and your homework is going to be to define your anchors, to express, in this moment anyway, the shiniest parts of your waypoints. What is calling you? Which direction are you moving in? And what do you envision as the expressed outcome once you're in that space? Knowing that the only change is constant, but you want to move into a space where you get to express as master carpenter, owner of your own business, better spouse, more confident public speaker. What is it that you're moving into? Out of survival into proactive mindset. All right, folks. This one was a shorty. We're going to pick up with more tools next week. See you on the trail. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Dear Grandchildren, A Tracker's Tale. If today's journey resonates with you, I invite you to share it with others who long for a deeper connection to nature and themselves. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts for bonus episodes, exclusive question and answer sessions, and more tales from the wild. Your support through subscriptions, feedback, or simply spreading word keeps this flame of ancestral wisdom alive. And if you're ready to take the next step, contact the Central School at primitiveskills.com or email staff@primitiveskills.com to learn all about our workshops, experiences, lectures, expeditions, and how we can bring these teachings directly to you. Until next time, may your trails be clear and your heart full. Keep exploring and keep the fire burning.